What's going on, guys? Ted from Nerd Immersion here. Sorry my voice is shot. 24-hour streams and playing Dungeons & Dragons consistently. After that, we'll do that to you. But that being said, I didn't want to let too much time lapse, as you guys desperately want more of these Ravnica videos, as well as all the other people who I've promised to do DM's Guild reviews for. So I'm going to try to soldier through this as best I can. You'll just have to bear with me. Seems like the mic's picking me up okay, so let's get into this. So today, we're going to talk about the races of Ravnica. These are the races contained in Guildmasters' Guide to Ravnica, and how they differ compared to their Unearthed Arcana counterparts, as every single race was released at some point, and I believe there was one that wasn't, and we'll talk about why. So, let us jump right in. First of all, we've got the races section here on D&D Beyond. You can see there's all of this stuff, but we're only here to talk about mechanics. So, they have right here listed humans, elves, centaurs, goblins, Loxodons, Minotaurs, Simic Hybrids, and Vedalken. Some of these, obviously, we don't need to talk about: humans, elves, and so on. Nothing different, just the name options. Elves, there are no different elf type. Centaurs, okay. So mechanically, let's take a look over here at our centaurs in Unearthed Arcana. So originally, when it was released, you got a +2 strength, +1 wisdom. You were still considered medium size, 40-foot movement speed. You charge if you run at least 20 feet straight towards a target and hit it with a melee attack on the same turn. Roll the weapon's damage twice and add them together. Once you use this ability, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. You have hooves that you could do a d6 plus your strength modifier and bludgeoning damage, as opposed to your... Actually, just a natural melee weapon. It doesn't say in place of your unarmed strike. You have this equine build, right? You're one size larger when determining the carrying capacity for push or drag, similar to powerful build. But because they didn't want to outlaw you completely from being able to climb and do things because you chose to play a centaur, they did this basically whenever you need to climb, each foot of movement costs 4 feet extra instead of the normal 1 foot extra. So to break that down, the official wording in the player's handbook is when there's difficult terrain, every foot of movement takes 1 extra foot of movement, meaning it takes double movement to move 1 foot, because they weren't anticipating people being on a grid. So if we take the 40-foot movement speed that a centaur has, and they had difficult terrain under a normal scenario, each movement grid or block would take double. So essentially, if they wanted to move their full movement speed, they would only be able to go 20. So it's double the amount of feet, right? So 1 extra movement speed. So divide that by 2. For this, it says if you're climbing, it costs you 4 extra feet. So take that total movement speed and divide it by 4, and then that's kind of where you're at. So you're taking, for every foot of movement, you're taking 4 feet of movement. So you're trying to climb a 10-foot ladder. As a typical creature with difficult terrain, or whatever the case may be, this 1 extra foot of movement, if it's a 10-foot ladder, it's going to take you 20 feet of movement to get up there, right? So every 1 foot step of this 10-foot ladder is 2 feet. 2 times 10 is 20 feet. If you're a centaur and you're trying to climb this ladder, it's going to take you 4 times as long. So for every 1 foot of movement, you're going to be taking 4 feet of movement step, I guess. So to climb a 10-foot ladder as a centaur, it's going to take your entire 40 feet of movement to get up there. So if a ladder is 20 feet long, it's going to take you 4 times as long to climb it as anybody else. So climbing is not a good thing if you're a centaur. Proficiency in the survival skill, and they had this hybrid nature, which I'm glad they kind of did away with. We'll talk about that. So you have 2 creature types, humanoid and monstrosity. You can be affected by a game effect if either one works on either creature type. That's kind of pointless, because typically anything that would affect a monstrosity, like the spells that affect monstrosities, all, like, you think about hold person, right, affects humanoids. Hold monster affects monsters or any creature. You would be affected by all of the things the same throughout the entire time. It wouldn't really affect it too much. And you can speak, read, and write Common and Sylvan. So let's jump over here to our centaur. Strength score, wisdom by 1. That's the same. We still have 40 feet of movement. Yes, we do. You're now considered to be Fey rather than humanoid. So that means you are unaffected by things like Charm Person, like Dominate Person, and like Hold Person. But things that affect Fey creatures specifically affect you. But that means you have a decent inbound immunity to certain abilities. Charge is if you move at least 30 feet straight towards a creature and then hit with a melee weapon attack on the same turn. You can immediately follow that attack with a bonus action, making one attack against the target with your hooves. So this was originally 20 feet. They increased the movement to 30, and this was if you hit a creature on the with a weapon attack on the same turn, you basically double the dice. And I brought this up when I reviewed it initially. That basically treats it as a critical hit, except it's not. So that means that if you were to crit on that attack, you would do the base damage, the critical damage, and add twice, roll the weapon damage twice, essentially rolling it a third or fourth time. So the way the dice rolls, doubling dice, that stacks, and it was once per short or long rest. Now, it's infinite. You can do it whenever you want. It's 30 feet, so a little harder to do. But when you hit with a melee attack, you can immediately follow up with a bonus action, making another melee attack, which is pretty great. That's a way to get a bonus action attack for a lot of races that don't have it. It'll let you not have to do two-weapon fighting. Your hooves are now a D4, but it says what you can use to make unarmed strikes. That was a little bit of clarification I brought up earlier. So it does replace your base unarmed strike damage, but it does a D4 plus your strength modifier as opposed to a D6. Equine build, you count as one size larger for carrying capacity, and any climb that requires hands and feet is especially difficult for you. You still get the 4 times movement, but they removed this piece, which was finally a medium or smaller creature can ride on your equine back if you allow it. In such a situation, you continue to act independently, not as a controlled mount. So they did away with your ability to ride on someone as a medium-sized creature, which makes sense. And then you get now not just survival, you get to choose animal handling, medicine, nature, or survival. So you have a little more variability there. Not surprised, honestly, at a lot of this. The charge being switched to be an always-on thing, a little harder to do, makes sense to me. The other one was kind of a wonky mechanic that doesn't fit with the way D&D 5e kind of works. The hooves being reduced to a D4, okay. It's not like a game breaker for me. The equine build makes sense. The movement makes sense. I think this is just a more well-polished design. This is, I think, a pretty good race for your clerics. I think a samurai fighter could be interesting with the wisdom benefits that they get. Let's move on to goblin. So, goblins here are exactly the same as they are in Volo's guide, but as a reminder, they need to reprint it because if you want to play a goblin in Ravnica, this is so that you don't have to go buy Volo's Guide to Monsters. So this is exactly the same as it would be in Volo's Guide. So no worries there. Loxodon, alright, so these are your elephant people. Okay. What did we get in our Ravnica book here for the Loxodon? In our Unearthed Arcana, we got Constitution by 2, Wisdom by 1, powerful build. You were still considered medium size, powerful build, increased carrying capacity, movement speed of 30, advantage versus frightened. You had thick skin, your AC is 13 plus your dex. Proficiency in Mason's tools, the dwarves' stone cutting ability, and thanks to your sensitive truck, an advantage on wisdom, perception, and intelligence investigation checks that rely on smell. We now get con and wisdom, that's the same. Powerful build, movement speed of 30 feet. You are now, was it immunity before? It was advantage. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. It's now charmed and frightened, so that's a little bit of a benefit. Now, your natural armor bonus, your AC is 12, so 1 less, but plus your con mod, as opposed to your dex mod, so that's pretty nice, because you're already getting that inbound constitution bonus. This could make a very interesting barbarian class, especially if you want to choose like a totem or something. You're going to get advantage on saving throws versus charmed, frightened, dexterity saving throws, initiative. Can't be surprised at later dates. Your AC is going to be 12 plus your constitution. It kind of offsets the dex and con benefit as being a barbarian, but that also lets you to be a barbarian where you don't have to put too many points into your dexterity, because you're going to get this 12 plus your con mod here. So if you roll well and you really want to throw a ton of points in strength and a ton of points in con and still want to be unarmored, this gives you a way to sort of counterbalance that a little bit. You can still use a shield and get the benefit. And I mean, I just threw that out as an example. This would make a pretty, I mean, this would make a great druid or cleric, just looking at the constitution and wisdom bonuses that you'd get. This could be great for your druid. You want to be unarmored. This isn't so bad. You don't have to worry about trying to deal with the metal armor. Again, just some ideas. So here's your trunk. Now they changed the trunk. The trunk, if you look back here, used to just give you, where are we? Here. Loxodon trunk. It didn't tell you anything. It just basically said you got advantage on some perception checks. Here, they actually gave it some abilities now. Your trunk can grasp things. It has a reach of 5 feet. It can lift a number of pounds equal to 5 times your strength score. It can lift, drop, hold, push, or pull an object or creature, open or close a door or container, grapple someone, or make an unarmed strike. Your DM might allow other simple tasks to be added to that list. It can't wield weapons or shields or do anything that requires manual precision, such as using tools or magic items, or performing the somatic components of a spell. So still very cool. Oh, and you can use it as a snorkel. They put that in there too, so you can use it if you're trying to get underwater. My only thing is it doesn't specify, so I guess it's assumed that it is whatever it would be an action. I find it hard to believe that if your nose is independent of itself, that you couldn't like hit somebody and then bonus action punch them with your nose. But it's pretty cool that it allows you to do unarmed strikes. There's probably an interesting concept out there for making a Loxodon monk, so your unarmed strikes can be made with your trunk, doing martial arts damage. Something to think about. You do still get advantage on perception, now survival. Perception, survival, and investigation checks. That involves smell. Makes sense that you get survival. They lost the stone cutting and the proficiency with masonry tools, though. And here you can only speak, read, and write common. Here you can speak, read, and write common and Loxodon. Alright, we have our Minotaurs now. Minotaurs have gone through a couple of iterations. They were one of the first Unearthed Arcana in the Waterborne, and then they were adjusted in this Unearthed Arcana, and we'll see how they compare to the final published product. Strength by 1, strength by 2, con by 1. 30-foot walk speed, melee, horns. When you hit with them, they take a d6 plus your strength mod. Doesn't say they're unarmed strikes here. Goring Rush, immediately after you use the dash action on your turn to move at least as far as your speed. You can make one melee attack with your horns as a bonus action. Hammering Horns, immediately after you hit a creature with a melee attack as part of the attack action on your turn, you can choose to shove them as a reaction. That to be no more than one size larger than you within 5 feet. They make a strength saving throw against a DC of 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength mod. If it fails, you knock them back 5 feet. Proficiency in intimidation. They had this hybrid nature, which they did away with, and you spoke common and Minotaur. So let's take a look. Here, strength and con. Hammering Horns is still a d6, and they are now officially listed as being your unarmed strikes. The reason that that's important is certain things also key off of unarmed strikes, or use those specifically, so that's a reason why to include that. Goring Rush, immediately after you take the dash action to move at least 20 feet, you can make a melee with your horns as a bonus action. So that's cool. It used to be your full movement, now it's 20 as opposed to 30. Hammering Horns, immediately after you hit a creature with a melee attack as part of your action on your turn, you can use a bonus action now, not a reaction, to shove them. They must be still no larger than 5 feet and within 5, or no more than one size larger than you and within 5 feet. They succeeded on a strength saving throw, 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength mod, and now they're pushed 10 feet away as opposed to 5. And you get proficiency in either intimidation or persuasion, and you can speak common and Minotaur. You do no longer have the hybrid nature, and they give you a little more options on your imposing presence here. Alright, next up is the Simek Hybrid. It's a weird mutant animal human hybrid creature. So here it was a con increase and one ability score of your choice. Dark vision of 60 feet. and your body gets an animal enhancement, and that's kind of the main focus of this, right? So you get one at first level and one at 5th level. At first level, you could choose from Manta Glide. When you fall and are incapacitated, you can subtract 100 feet from the fall when calculating falling damage, and can move up to 2 feet horizontally for every 1 foot you descend. Climbing speed equal to your walking speed, or breathe air and water and have a swimming speed equal to your walking speed. So let's start the comparison here. 30 feet, con and ability score your choice. Dark vision 60 feet. Manta Glide, ray-like fins, are incapacitated to subtract 100 feet, so that's the same. Nimble Climber, also the same. Underwater adaptation, could you breathe water and air? Yep, okay, so those are exactly the same. Nothing really changed too much there. Alright, then at 5th we have grappling appendages here in the Unearthed Arcana. 2 special appendages growing alongside your arms. Choose whether they're both claws or tentacles. Each one of these appendages is a natural weapon, which you can use to make unarmed strikes. If you hit with it, the target takes bludgeoning damage equal to 1d6 plus your strength mod, instead of bludgeoning damage from your unarmed strike. Normal if you're unarmed strike. Immediately after hitting, you can try to grapple the target as a bonus action. The appendages can't manipulate anything, can't wield weapons, magic, carry items, or otherwise. Carapace, you get a +1 bonus to AC when you're not wearing heavy armor. And then Acid Spit, as an action, you spray a stream of acid from glands in your mouth, targeting a creature you can see within 30 feet. Target takes 2d10 acid damage unless it succeeds on a dexterity saving throw. DC 8 plus your con mod plus your proficiency bonus. And this increases by a d10 when you hit 11 to 3d10 and 17 at 4d10. This, and you can speak Common and Elvish. It kind of sucks. I always hate seeing any type of ability that's like a key off of why you picked a race or a specific class feature that is save or no damage. Like an Artificer, as it's written, is if you throw one of your elixirs, if you're the alchemist, and they pass the saving throw, they take no damage, and that's like your whole class piece. You get no benefit for that. Just like the newly updated Spore Druid we'll go over in another video. Now it's con save for your damage or no damage, and that's like a large function of your class. Alright, so let's check the 5th level versions here. Alright, grappling appendages. Choose whether they're both claws or tentacles. Natural weapon is an unarmed strike. D6 plus your strength mod. Immediately after grapple is a bonus action. Okay. Carapace, still +1 when you're not wearing heavy armor. Acid Spit is the same, I think. Object you can take 2d10 acid damage and succeed on a successful saving throw. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your con mod and regain all uses when you finish a long rest. Here, it was unlimited. Pretty dumb to make it limited to your constitution modifier times per long rest when it's save or no damage. Give me a limit on how many times I can do it, but let me at least do some damage if I'm going to waste a whole action on my turn to use probably something I chose this class for specifically and have it do literally nothing. It's just like a waste of a turn. It's a waste of your whole action. It sucks when you do that. Believe me. As someone who played an Artificer for 9 levels, I agree. Alright, and then we have Vedalken. Vedalken are, I guess, sort of amphibious humanoid type creatures. So they were in the Unearthed Arcana, so let's go take a look at those. I believe they're sort of elven in nature. Nope, maybe not. So Unearthed Arcana, intelligence by 2, wisdom by 1. Dark vision. Oh, nope, no dark vision. My mistake. Vedalken Dispassion. Sorry, guys. Advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. So this is similar to the Gnome Cunning feature. And you are proficient in one of the following skills: Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Performance, or Sleight of Hand. You're also proficient with a tool of your choice. Whenever you make an ability check with that chosen skill or tool, you add a d4 to the number rolled. So basically, you have an always-on guidance ability as like the spell for this particular skill and this particular tool. And you speak, read, and write common. Here, we get intelligence by 2, wisdom by 1. We still have our Vedalken Dispassion here. So intelligence, wisdom, charisma save, awesome. Choose Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Performance, or Sleight of Hand. I think we got a couple of other options there. Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Performance, or Sleight of Hand. I guess we didn't. That was the same one. And a tool, and you add that. So that's pretty awesome because you could be a really good historian, investigator, performer, even a little bit of a healer or a thief, and just have that extra D4 to bank on no matter what. And they gave him a nice little bump here. Partially amphibious. By absorbing oxygen through your skin, you can breathe underwater for up to 1 hour. Once you've reached that limit, you can't use this trait again until you finish a long rest. Still, breathing underwater is not a super common thing in most games, but having it as a backup is awesome. And you now speak Common, Vedalken, and one language of your choice. So that's pretty cool. You get an extra language. And that's it. Now, if you look here, there was a fifth race here, the Viashino, I guess, which was a sort of reptile-type creature. And they didn't make it into the book for some reason. And they were Dex +2, Strength +1, Bite for an unnatural. This seems very similar to a lizard folk. A D4 plus your Strength mod, and piercing damage as a bite. Your semi-prehensile tail is tipped with a long bony blade. Immediately after a creature within 5 feet of you deals damage to you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to make an unarmed strike attack against that creature with your tail. If you hit, you do a D4 plus your Strength mod and slashing damage. And you have proficiency in athletics or stealth. So I get it. That race kind of seems boring, especially with the update to the Loxodon trunk ability. I feel like they might have absorbed that piece into the Loxodon. And that's why we didn't get the Viashino. So that's it, guys. My quick little breakdown of the differences between the races contained in Guildmasters Guide to Ravnica versus their initial appearance in the Unearthed Arcana articles about them. Let me know what you think. As a general thought, I pretty much like the published versions in the Ravnica book better than I like any of the versions that existed previously. It seems like they pretty much only did, with the exception of the Vedalken, which seems to be pretty much exactly the same. They more or less just made those races better and more polished. I would have liked to have seen something interesting with the Minotaur, to have, like how the Centaur has the ability that it's Fey to avoid certain spells like that. I would have liked to have seen something similar with the Minotaur as a monstrosity, or perhaps something along the lines of the Labyrinthine Recall, where they're able to remember things that they've seen. That's more of an RP thing, like they can't get lost kind of a deal. That's more of an RP than a hardcore mechanical piece, but I don't think there was any harm in including that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I will join you next time for the Unearthed Arcana versus Ravnica Order Cleric video. So I will see you then.